I am Dr. Marcia, and I am your host and visionary for this amazing conference where the speakers are telling their stories. They are touching their tribes and they are expanding their territory. And as they are doing this, as they're sharing from their heart, their stories are touching your souls. And it's causing a transformation to break out in your life. And so I have yet another speaker coming to the stage. Her name is Coach Xenia Barnes. Coach Barnes, she is a dynamic motivational speaker. She's an author, she's a thought leader, and she is a trauma coach. Using her experience as an advanced human behavioral analysis and community activist, she transforms the lives and careers of survivors of domestic abuse, violence, and long-term illnesses. For the past 15 years, she has successfully trained, coached, and developed the mindset of women on their journey to becoming a better version of themselves. Now, as a PhD candidate, her season of me, that the ME stands for mental and emotional growth, that talk has left countless audiences just hanging on the edge of their seat as they begin their journey to loving themselves through their trauma with Coach Barnes. So, Coach Barnes, welcome to the stage. How are you?
Hi, how you doing? Thank you for having me. I'm very enthused about being here and just being able to share my story, and hopefully I can help some others who may be experiencing something similar. Again, thanks for the warm welcome. I am, yes, a PhD candidate, and I am the founder and CEO of Goldmine Thoughts, Leadership Development and Life Coaching Services, and I am deeply rooted in helping survivors of gun violence, domestic abuse, and long-term illnesses.
Thank you so much for giving us some additional clarity on who you are. And the thing that I heard several times, I heard that you were a trauma coach,
Yes.
and I heard domestic abuse, and I also heard gun violence.
Yes.
And so I just want us to go straight there. I want to know, what is your story? How did you get here?
I'm sure. Thanks for asking that. As far as gun violence, I definitely it took a while. I tapped into this realm after losing my only nephew to gun violence and seeing with not only myself but my sister and the rest of my family went through. Uh, I definitely realized that there had to be others that were out there suffering the way we were, and I just wanted to put something behind to make sense of and see how others can navigate through that, because we were all suffering in silos and not recognizing that we were all having like little mental breakdowns, and we were just trying to do the best that we can. Especially myself, I thought that everything I was operating okay. I was just going day by day, going to work, coming home, going to work, doing this, helping take care of my sister, moving, and I kind of just moved on and didn't realize how bad it was affecting me and the trauma that I was experiencing with that. And it wasn't until I had my own little breakdown at work where it was like, no, something like, I just can't do this. I was crying nonstop and I couldn't stop crying. And it was like, but I thought I was okay. And it's like,
Yeah.
no, you're not okay. And I really had to then get into therapy and seek some help. And as the time went on, I realized the same thing was happening with my son. Like I just my son was in high school when that happened. He was in his senior year, and so right after senior year, he graduated, shipped him off to college, thinking, yes, you're into football, you're gonna go off, and if you're not gonna have to think about this because you're not gonna be in the midst of it. But that wasn't the best thing for him, and he ended up having a breakdown at school, losing his football scholarship. He had a full football scholarship, and I had to end up bringing him back home. So in the process of that, it was I didn't get him the help that he needed so that he can start to heal or understand what he was going through, because I thought that as a parent I was doing the best thing by removing him from the situation. So within the midst of that, it brought me to trying to figure out and help others navigate through what they're experiencing. And here comes Gold Mine Thought.
Yeah, so good. And there's so much happened,
Mm-hmm.
and there's so much that you've been able to get get through. But I wanna just do this if we could. What is your nephew's name?
My nephew's name was Melquan Jatel Anderson.
Yes. I want to honor him just for a minute. And when we hear about gun violence, sometimes we prejudge.
Mm-hmm.
We assume that we know what happened or that they were doing something that they shouldn't. I want you to share the legacy of your nephew.
Oh, thank you for allowing me to clear those things, that misconception up, and bring some knowledge to that. So my nephew, I was a college student. He was enrolled in John Jay College. He was going for his bachelor's degree in criminal justice. He wanted to be a lawyer. He always was helping out in community, helping his friends, or either get their GED or just helping them to better their lives. And so when it happened, he was on his way to turn his final paper in, and he was murdered. And it wasn't a sense of he had any type of ties to anybody to where it was he had some type of argument or something. It was nothing like that. It was just an incident that happened, and unfortunately, his life was taken 4 days after his 27th birthday. However, instead of letting him be a statistic, my family began to found the Melquan Jatel Anderson Foundation, which is a non for profit who fights against gun violence via education. And currently, we are lobbying to get our law passed, Mel's Law, will that will provide a post traumatic degree to anyone who was enrolled in good standing in college but didn't get to complete because they died. And so right now it's passed in the Senate. It's at the House, and we're waiting for it to get passed. Hopefully, fingers crossed this year. But again, we continue to breathe life into his name so that we can bring life into others through his foundation.
Hmm. So powerful. There's a foundation named after him and all the good work that you were doing. Now tell me what area are you in?
Downtown Brooklyn,
Okay,
the
Brooklyn.
jungle area over by Farragut and Fort Greene houses.
Okay. So the other thing that you mentioned, you said this was your only nephew and that your sister, that, you mentioned before to me that you all are a very close knit family
Yes.
and that you all were going through together,
Mm,
correct?
correct.
Hmm. But then there was that moment when you said you were grieving in silos.
Correct.
And I want you to put some more words around what that means for the viewers.
Yeah, so when you're grieving in silos, it's like although other people around you are going through something similar, it's more so of you're holding in what you're going through because you're looking and you're saying, well, someone else, what the next person is, what they're going through is worse. So you kind of putting what you're going through on the back burner, and you're not taking the time to get the support and the healing that you actually need, because you're in your mind is like, well, I can't be going through, well, my situation is not as bad as the next person. So you're so busy trying to help the other person or whoever else is around you that you don't have an opportunity to set in to what you're going through. And I definitely want to say that my in the sense of me going through this grief, it wasn't only the loss of my nephew. It was also my story expands, and it goes into me being diagnosed in 2021 with a terminal lung disease, which is pulmonary fibrosis, along with lupus and another and Sjogren's, which is another it's an autoimmune disease to where it fights off everything good in your body. So it was because I had the pulmonary fibrosis, my immune system is now battling against that. So it's deteriorating my lungs faster than it would normally do. Again, this is something that is common in people who are like maybe have been in war or been in some type of environmental disease, or either someone who smoked for a long period of life. So you see my illness in someone who's like more towards their senior years in their age. So it's not that common that someone my age would have it. And
Yeah.
so in going through that, I had to go through a whole nother transition of beginning to shed and understand leaving the person that I was behind to figure out who I am now and what I can do now. So I actually wrote a book, and the book is called Grieving to Heal: The
Mhm.
Shadowboarding Experience, and it tells my story about both the loss of my nephew, but also navigating through my illness and what that looks like, what that sounds like, what it feels like, and then it has a workbook to help others kind of navigate whatever they're going through. And again, it's called Grieving to Heal: The Shadowboarding Experience. And so, like I said, my story doesn't just stop. Like it didn't just stop with the grief of losing my nephew. It also goes into the grief of having a long term illness, and things of that nature.
Right. So you have chronicled your journey, and I want to just to kind of rewind just a little bit, connect some of the dots. So there was a tragedy in the loss of your nephew.
Mm-hmm.
You're trying to help your sister by not showing your pain
Mm-hmm.
because she is going through worse because it's her son. And in that, you also said your own mental breakdown.
Mm-hmm.
But as we move forward from that, now you are struggling with your own health concerns. And so there is a connection between if we grieve, if we don't grieve outwardly, we try to keep it in, that then causes more trouble for us. It kind of leaves it can amplify whatever else is happening in our bodies. And so let's talk about you. Let's talk about the pulmonary fibrosis.
Mm-hmm.
And as you said, it's not curable.
No, it's not.
And you also mentioned lupus, and you also mentioned Sjogren's.
Mm-hmm.
All of those things, it's like your body battling you.
Correct.
How did you deal with that? How did you move forward?
Ooh, that that was definitely difficult, and I'm still going through that. Right? It comes in cycles. So I don't want to say like, oh, I wrote a book and I'm healed, I'm cured, because that's false. I definitely have my ups and my downs, but um, I went through a really dark period. I went through a really dark period, and I want to share that I have a very strong supportive system. My family is just like they are the best. And I wish that others had a support system the way that I have a support system. When I say my sisters and my mom and my best friends, they are by my side. They're here for me when I need. They help me. They go with me to my doctor's appointments. I actually have a sister here now helping me and taking care of me. So I have the best support system. But even in having that, because I'm the only person who is experiencing what I'm experiencing, I really had some dark times. And so what it would be is like at nighttime when everyone else is sleeping, I would be crying or just journaling down what I was experiencing, what I was going through. And again, I just was like, who do I have to talk to who can truly understand this? And again, that led me to the book because I was saying, because I didn't have anyone, I was like, well, there has to be someone else. And what if me telling my story will help someone else know that you're not alone? And yes, days can be really dark, but if you try this, or maybe if you try something else, try finding the moments to smile, try letting the sun kiss your face, try thinking about some other positive things, but then also understanding it's okay to let go of who you were and start identifying who you are now. So that's what I call grieving the living. because yes, you're still living, but you're no longer that person that you used to be. Like myself, I'm no longer that vibrant person who can dance all night long, or like can who can like run up and down the sidelines with my son. I can't do a lot of those things anymore. But I can do motivational speaking. I can do interviews like this to tell my story. I can touch the lives of others. So this is what the season in me looks like now. My mental and emotional growth right now, this is what it looks like.
Yeah, look, I'm hearing Tiffany Haddish say, this is what it looked like. This is what it looked like, right? This is what healing looks like. And as I want to pivot because you mentioned that even though you had a supportive family, they weren't going through all of what you were going through.
Mm-hmm.
And it led you to a place where, you know what, in a late night hour, you are crying. You are asking why. You are seeking some assistance from someone who actually knows what's going on. And I do know that you have a bigger mission. Tell me how you were able to pivot those moments into how you're able to help someone else.
I definitely would have to say um, it's just tapping into my faith and who I always was. I always was someone who wanted to be of service, and I've always asked God to use me to be a vessel to help someone else. So using that and tapping into that was what led me to that. And I want to say for the actual, if I had to pinpoint one experience, it would be um, I had an episode in my mom's house where I passed out. I was gone for about five to 8 minutes, and they had to bring me back. And when I got to the hospital, they had me on a ventilator, and the doctors didn't think I was going to make it through the night. So my family had to call everyone. They told them, come on, come see her now. So I see tons of people just pouring into the room, and they just come in, and everyone's crying. And for myself, a long time, I always thought like people don't love me, they tolerate me, right? And that was just something in the back of my head that always lingered. It's like people just tolerate me, they don't love me. And it was in that moment that I saw the actual true love, and I said, wow, I've touched this many people. I have been a blessing to this many people. And I just looked at my son, and I said, my son, he was trying not to cry, trying to be strong. Can you imagine? At the time, he was 21, and he's trying to be strong for his mom. And he looked at me and he said, "You can't go. We got things to do. We got work to do." And for me, that was like, "You right. I gotta push through because I gotta be here. I gotta be here to be here for you. Like I can't just let this go." And so that was my moment of I have more work to do.
Yeah, that's good. So tell me about the work. I know that you are the CEO of Gold Mine Thoughts. Tell me more about that.
Yes. So as the head of Gold, as the founder and CEO of Gold Mine Thoughts, I have my coaching services again that caters to survivors of gun violence, domestic abuse, and long-term illnesses. And what sets Gold Mine Thoughts apart from other coaching businesses is because we cater to not only those going through trauma, but we help you to navigate through that trauma so that you can be the best version of yourself. And most coaching services focus on only the professional you. Gold Mind Thoughts focus on the personal you so that you can be the best professional you. And a lot of times when you don't handle the trauma that you haven't, the trauma that you haven't yet unpacked, it's difficult for you to navigate in different spaces, and it's difficult for you to accept feedback, accept criticism and things of that nature. So it's all about helping you unlock that, doing self inventory so that you can be okay in navigating through these spaces, so that you can show up as your most authentic self and enjoy doing so.
I love that. Show up as your authentic self. And I know that you have some other projects in the works. And I want to say a phrase, and I want you to tell me what that means to you. That silence is loud.
Yes. And so I'm glad you mentioned that because that's actually what the name of my my Zoom call that I do, my foundation does, and we do that. Silence is loud, and that is for survivors of gun violence, whether it is a brother, a sister, niece, nephew, friend, aunt, or uncle. And the importance of silence is loud is because, again, when the actual violent act happened, everyone's focus is either on the mom or the dad. And everyone else that is the supporting family or the supporting factor kind of falls to the wayside. And so they are living their trauma in silence. And that speaks volumes because that means there's so many people walking around hurt with trauma that they haven't had a chance to unpack. And when you think about our youth, we think about how there's one thing my sister always said: you can be young and your friend can be here today and you're laughing and joking, and then tomorrow your friend is gone. It's like, what do you do with that? And no one's helping you unpack that. So she was a big part of this Silence is Loud, because it's like we have to help our youth. We have to make sure that we provide a space for them, a safe space for them, so that they can be able to talk about what they're going through and know that no, they're not being left alone. So that's how Silence is Loud came about.
Hmm. Thank you for sharing that. And that's so true. And that goes beyond gun violence.
Right.
That's domestic abuse. That is, rape. That is emotional abuse. That's all. It's all encompassing. But as I hear about your story with your nephew, I want to know. It seems like we can't go a week without hearing about gun violence.
Mm-hmm.
I'm from the Baltimore area, or should I say, I live in the Baltimore area, and there's a ticker for how many people died this last night or this week or this year. How does a family who has been victimized by gun violence, what do you hear? What do you feel each time there's been a school shooting? Each time there's been this random act of violence, even when there's been a racially triggered attack. What goes through your mind?
That more has to be done. More has to be done because it's triggering no matter if it's a school shooting, it's triggering no matter if it's one on one, it's triggering no matter if it's re victimization, whether it is over policing and it turns into a violent situation. Everyone wants their loved one to come home, no matter if they're a cop, no matter if they're just a regular citizen. Everyone wants their loved one to come home. So there is so many different aspects that goes into that. It goes into banning assault rifles as far as the school shootings. It goes into proper training and adequate work hours for police officers so that they don't have to feel overworked and they don't have to feel so frustrated because they're working so many hours to make ends meet. So they're upset uh, when someone like challenges their authority, right? There's also the sense of ghost guns in the black and brown communities, and how are these guns getting into the hands of the youth? People are so young now, and everyone has guns. So it's gun trafficking. It's appropriate and adequate pay as far as the police officers getting the right amount of time to mentally heal from what they go through, experience every day, but as well as the right amount of pay for so they don't have to work all those hours. It's also about, like I said, appropriate gun laws. I'm not saying to take guns away from people, take everyone's gun away. People who are properly trained to carry guns. However, there's no need for the average person to have an assault rifle where they're going into the school and they're shooting at innocent people. There's no need for that. So it's sinful, and again, it's triggering all the way around. There's never a day where you go, okay, this person deserved it. No one deserved to have their life taken.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Good thoughts. Thank you for sharing. And so what I'm hearing is there's action that should be taken. There's more action that can be taken on the gun side, on the policy side, on the even the police department. And some of those are, technically outside of our control. We can lobby, we can write letters, but it's really sits in the hands of the lawmakers. But I want to do the flip side. Okay, we're talking about taking action.
Mm-hmm.
If you are a victim of of a gun violence, if you're a victim of domestic abuse, if you are a victim of trauma, there are individuals like Coach Xenia who can help you move through that. And so, Coach Xenia, can you share with us your contact information? Not only if they want to contact you about coaching, but what if they want to bring you in as a speaker, a subject matter expert? How would they reach you?
Sure. So they can email info@goldminethoughts.com, or they can go to my website, which is www.goldminethoughts.com. And I just wanted to circle back really quickly because we talked about what we can do as far as action, and that was the political side, right? But there's so much more that needs to be done as far as housing and employment in these underserviced communities, mental illness that's not being touched upon. So there's a laundry list of things. But the things that we can do right now in the now is definitely how appropriate as affordable housing, and not where it's like, oh, you have to make $60,000 and have 4 kids in order to be able to get an apartment that's $1,000 for rent, because that's technically not affordable housing, right? We want to make sure that we get appropriate affordable housing so that people can relocate when they go through something, a traumatic experience like that. Because when you have someone who's a victim of gun violence, or I don't want to say victim, but more so a survivor of gun violence, right? And they still have to come back to that community, they're continuing to live that
Yeah,
heartache and
over
that
and over.
sensation over and over again. So it becomes a generational cycle of trauma, which also snowballs into when you're young and you have siblings or you have more children and they're living through that. That then walks into a cultural betrayal of trauma, because now it's like, I don't know if this person is after me. Do I have to retaliate? There's so many different aspects that has to run through that, and a lot of that is what I work with some of the individuals that I coach about, like, how do you continue and support your children that are still here with you while you're going through that, and making sure that you're giving them the support that they need, and what does that support look like to be able to try to put one foot in the other, because you never really heal from that pain, but you learn how to live and breathe differently.
Yeah, so good. Thank you for adding that and giving some clarity of that. And so you have heard it. This is Coach Xenia Barnes. She is the CEO and founder of Gold Mine Thoughts, and you can reach her on her website that I have listed as well as email. And Coach Xenia, I am so thankful that you have come through the Destiny Exposure Summit. Please reach out to her if you are a victim and you need some assistance. The healing process is the process, but there are people along the way who can help you to get to your better version of you.
Yes.
Thank you for being here.
And don't forget to check out the book Grieving to Heal: The Shadowboarding Experience on Amazon, now available on Amazon and Barnes and Nobles.
Absolutely. Make sure you check out Amazon. And until next time, thank you, Coach Cinia. Take care.
All right, take care.
And there you had it. It was Coach Xenia Barnes. So powerful, so inspiring. And when you hear stories like that, you cannot help but say, you know what? I can make it. I can get to my next level. I can get to that next version of me. So go ahead and reach out to her and get ready for the what's next on the Destiny Exposure Summit. I am Dr. Marcia. I am your host and the visionary. Until next time, take care.